Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike. Mike, we are here today to do a video about the newest launch of X-Men, the
Yes,
X-Men line. Marvel actually putting out a little booklet to, give you previews of
entice
X-Men,
you.
which I was really excited about until I saw all that was in there and it worried me a little bit. Not necessarily anything about creative teams or anything like that, but just the sheer amount of content. So what Mike and I thought we would do is we'd kind of just run through what they're launching, how many books there are, give our thoughts on the overall line, see if any of these would interest us, and ultimately for you guys down below in the comments if any of them are interesting you or anything that you would want to see get picked up or that you think has a good future. So, Mike, I know for me, Wolverine's my favorite Marvel character. You've been checked out of X-Men for how long? When was the last time you were picking up X-Men at all, if ever?
Uh, Longer than I can remember. Okay,
Okay.
so I love the X-Men.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm going through and watching the old cartoons with Jackson, and then we're
Yeah,
gonna work our way up to X-Men '97. I think we got one more short season to go for the
that's
old,
season five. Yeah.
yeah, season five. And so I love the X-Men. I loved the movies. I'm an X-Men fan, and but I'm not buying X-Men comics. You got to have deep pockets if you're an X-Men fan, and I'm sure there's lots of them out there. But you got to have deep pockets because X-Men, they have
Yeah.
so many books and they're all tangled up, and
No, and I
so
was really hoping this reboot would be an opportunity for X-Men to kind of thin down the line a bit.
I'm waiting for that point, that jump on point. And I thought Ultimate might be it, but it really wasn't. And
Yeah, Ultimate's just a Peach Momoko story where she's kind of, and again,
yeah,
to her
yeah.
credit, she's getting to do what she wants to do,
And
but
that's
it's
cool
not.
in its own right. But I want Cyclops, I want
Yeah.
Storm,
No,
what
it's not the ultimate X-Men version of what Ultimate Black Panther has been or what Ultimate Spider-Man has been because those books were both
yeah.
great, kind of dropping in points to give you hey, it's Black Panther, but a little bit of remix. Even the Ultimates is a good little remix of the Avengers, whereas Ultimate X-Men really is not anything but yeah, I will say X-Men breaks my heart because there are two books that are missing from my sub list that, as long as I've ever had a sub list, they've been on, but they just drove me away. And it was Uncanny X-Men and Black Panther. Those are the two comics that basically, since I was old enough to maintain a pull list, had been on there. And about a year ago, Black Panther lost me, and about 2 years ago, X-Men lost me. So I was really hoping this relaunch would get it. But I think one, we'll talk about just the sheer amount of books. So they did this nice little preview issue. Very cool, I will say, to print this out and hand it in stores. They had it at a lot of local comic shops. And then on the very first page, you see all of the X-Men books that are coming out. So for those who can't see it, because I probably don't have the most clarity here, you have Uncanny X-Men, you have X-Men, and you have Exceptional X-Men. So you have three X-Men books. You have NYX, X Force, Phoenix, Wolverine, X Factor, Dazzler, Storm, Mystique, and Sentinels. And that's not even to count Deadpool, which is in the X Men universe normally, that is already running. So, in total, if you want all X Men related characters, that would be about 13 books. Not to mention all the Wolverine related books that
What are
come
they at?
out.
4.99 each.
Yeah. So when we look at it, let's just do a brief run through of what each title has in it. I will say for me, the only one I will obviously pick up Wolverine. That is my, my favorite character. I will pick up the solo there. Uncanny X-Men might have a shot to be good. It is Wolverine with Gambit, Jubilee, Rogue, and I believe the other one on that roster is going to be, is it Nightcrawler? Will be there as well. So you get
Oh,
kind of
okay.
a classic lineup there.
Okay.
Um, you would notice there's a few big key ones missing, and that is because Cyclops is in his own book with Juggernaut, Beast, Psylocke, Magic, Kid Omega, and a few other characters. And then Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost have their own X Men team as well. So you have three separate X-Men team books. To me, I think the only ones that really have, I think Uncanny X-Men will probably obviously last. That's got Wolverine, it's got the Rogue and Gambit and Nightcrawler. It's got your money-making characters. X-Men might be successful because it's got Cyclops, Beast, and Jed McKay is a pretty good writer, and he's writing it. Exceptional X-Men, to be honest, I get it. You want to have a different kind of book. It's going to be about Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde recruiting new mutants. But I don't understand that book existing. I really don't. Um I think this is just such an issue with the X-Men thing. And again, when you want to get new fans, here's three different just X-Men books, right? We're not even talking the separate X teams. You have three different X-Men books. For those, Mike, someone who's checked out, I mean, with that being just three for the X-Men, is that right? Why right away for you? Would that be a deal breaker? Where it's just like, nope, not even
I
gonna.
would just walk on by because I don't know what's going on. That's why I would like to hear in the comments below of these books, which one would you recommend I try as a jumping on point? Like I'm a customer, I love the X-Men. I want to jump in, but I don't have it's just too convoluted. There's so much there. So yeah, I would probably just walk by it again.
Yeah.
And,
No,
and
and that's not even to mention the fact that we get an NYX book, which NYX used to be it was the book that X-23 debuted in. So
that's what I
she
was,
does get back in that book, but that will have Miss Marvel, who is now a mutant because the MCU made her a mutant. So instead of an Inhuman, Miss Marvel will now be there. That's going to be your, I guess, younger teen kind of book. X Force is the main one that I think is just such a missed opportunity in that it's got Forge, Deadpool, the character that used to be Psylocke, Betsy Braddock. She's now Captain Britain. You've got Rachel Summers and a bunch of other characters, to be honest, that I'm not 100% sure of. Again, I guess Deadpool could be your appeal there.
your
But again, if
flagship.
Deadpool has his own book, are you really going to pick up the X Force book that has so many other characters? Again, it's just one of these things where, okay, so we've got at this point, we've got the three X-Men titles, then you put in X Force, NYX, and then there's also X Factor, which will have Angel and Havoc and a few other characters on there as well. So you're talking six team books overall, really. Three separate X-Men books, X Force, NYX, and X Factor. It's nothing against any of the creative teams. I mean, you're talking what at $4.99 an issue? You're talking, assuming they only release once per month. If you just wanted to get the X-Men team books, you're talking $30. $30 a month, and that's if it's just one release for just the team books. I don't understand that approach. And to be honest, for me as a reader of it, I probably will pick up Uncanny X-Men, but simply because it's Wolverine. Wolverine is very much, if Logan was
Yeah.
not on that team, I'd walk by it. I think the other reason I would say it's a huge mistake too is, a main appeal of X-Men is characters like Storm and the Phoenix, Jean Grey, and they're in solo books. So you've got them in solo books too. So it's like, okay, Storm's not. You have six teams, none of them have Storm. Six teams, none of them have Jean Grey. I just don't understand what they're trying to do with that. And that I think,
I'm
you
I'm
talk.
kind of
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm kind of wondering like, okay, so you've got this incredible world of mutants and X-Men. You have limitless story potentials. I get that. You can tell all these stories, but do they hold in their own book? Or are these just being written as filler and six issues and we'll drop it? I don't know. I kind of, this is how I feel about it. And I don't know about the company, numbers wise. Do they really feel like these books can succeed on their own? And if they can, well, good for them. But I think that I just feel like they're. I feel like there should be like three books,
And
and
they do put
and
a
then
letter in here about why they're doing this, which I think if you're having
okay,
to put a letter about why, it's kind of an indication that it's sort of like anytime anyone says the phrase "no offense," all you're going to do is offend someone after that. And it's the same
yeah,
thing when someone puts a letter in trying to explain the line of comic books. It's like, we shouldn't need you to write a letter to tell me why this makes
right,
sense. And
right,
so in the letter, Tom Brevoort, the new kind of editor of the X-Men line. He used to be with the Avengers line. It's basically the goal of the new line is to have an X-Men book for every reader's taste, a sprawling variety of approaches to every set type of material. Is essentially what it says in there. Again, I think that's a good approach, sure, but like, why 13 books? Because the biggest thing is going to be, I love the character of Nightcrawler and Wolverine. That will get me to buy Uncanny X-Men. I like Cyclops quite a bit. I think he's a great character. $5 a month to buy his book where he's got a separate team. I don't know
The
if I like it that much, especially
the re-
because
the reason I like Cyclops is because the interaction with Jean and
and Logan.
Logan and that whole thing is really cool. I don't know. I just kind of feel like I kind of feel like we should have like two or three main books, and then if you want to explore some of these other stories with these great characters, they can have their own little solo backup feature that runs. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think the biggest thing is, right. What used to happen in comic books that was really interesting is you used to have characters kind of earn their own solo series. Right. Punisher debuted in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man. There was an outpouring of support for that character, interest in that
192, right?
character. Yeah, one or
192,
129, I think, right? Is it 129?
129.
Yeah. For that
Okay,
classic cover and all that. Outpouring of
right.
support for that character, people interested in that character. He got a couple miniseries. Miniseries evolved into an ongoing, and it kind of developed that way. Right. Cable, Deadpool, the most recent X-Men characters that really blew up, introduced in the New Mutants and other kind of stories, gained popularity, people liked them, and then they spun off into their own comic books. With this, I think the thing is, X-Men has seen this for like 30 years. Really, only Logan and Deadpool of the X-Men universe, and Cable to a certain extent as well, can carry their own book. We've tried Cyclops solo series. As much as Cyclops is a great character, his solo series don't typically work. Storm has had multiple attempts at solo books. Storm is an amazing character. It's not enough to pull in the whole thing. And I think what Marvel just does so often is, why don't you write smaller books at the start, right? Do 3 books. And then, hey, if you really want Storm to have her own solo series, maybe there's a storyline that has Storm has going in Uncanny X-Men. And
Yeah,
if people are really going, man, I want to know more about that story, and you see the engagement is up and you're getting fan feedback going, man, we want more of what's going on with Storm, then you spin that off into a book. It's largely, this kind of reminds me of this approach reminds me of the DCEU. And the thing with the DCEU is, it's like, how about you guys get Batman and Superman right first before you start worrying about Blue Beetle and the Suicide Squad and all
yeah,
these other characters. And that was always
yeah.
the biggest thing with the DCEU. It was like, you guys can't get Batman and Superman right on screen in the same movie. Why are you worrying about Shazam and Black Adam and Blue Beetle and getting an Aquaman trilogy and all this stuff when you can't get the big two of your universe in order? And I think that's the biggest thing is, Marvel, like, get a couple X-Men books that people love. Like, you keep, and I know people will say this, like, well, there's always an X-Men book. There is, but how many times has this thing been relaunched and renumbered and relaunched and renumbered? And it's like, at a certain point, we can just look at these books that are in here. I mean, they're launching 12, right? Okay, Uncanny X-Men, that'll probably last. X-Men, because you got Jed McKay, Cyclops, Beast, Juggernaut, probably will last. Exceptional X-Men, that's going to go 8 to 10 issues, right? I mean, would you be shocked at all, Mike, if that's done in 10 issues? No, right? Okay,
I don't.
NYX. As much as NYX used to be a book that worked, let's be honest, that book's probably going 10 issues. X Force, Deadpool's in there. Maybe that has a chance. That's a legacy comic that's been around for a while. Possibly. Phoenix, Jean Grey, like that's 6 to 8 issues. Dazzler, that's not gonna go very long. You've got Mystique with her own comic, Sentinels. I mean, these books are probably going to last 6 to 8 issues at most. And I'm sure Marvel may pull a few of them to 12 or something like that. But in all honesty, of the 12 books that are here, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, X-Force, and Wolverine, possibly if Storm is really, really well written, it could last. That's it. I think the other 7, no matter what the quality of it is, there's just no way they're going to last. And the whole thing is, I think as fans, what we've seen, and this is what I would say, for me, it stops me from even getting involved with it. And that, I'll probably pick up the 2 that have Wolverine in it, but like, let's say everyone's telling you X Factor is an amazing comic book. I know sales wise, that's probably gone in a year. So am I really going to run to the store, pay $5 an issue, and pick up some 12-issue series that, let's face it, it's going to get rebooted? And I just think that's the big problem with this X-Men line is, like you said, if you keep it small, right, you can get people in the door. And I think that's the mistake Marvel's making is get me in the door first. Give me two good X-Men books. And then if in the X-Men book, let's say Uncanny X-Men with that roster they're doing that largely is pretty close to X-Men 97. Let's say X Factor shows up in that book for a while. You have a couple issues where the X Men team is working with the X Factor team, and then, hey, everyone is loving how X Factor appears in this book. Then you spin them off. I
Yeah.
think to just throw it on the wall immediately, it just seems like such a mistake.
And then
Uh,
sometimes it seems like the lesser books they'll throw crossover events between the popular book and that one to
yep.
try and bolster sales and kind of like have that other one limp along a little bit longer. And I don't know. I mean,
Well, no, and then
I
with
hope
12
the
books, how long are we going to go? Probably what, issue five, six? Well, before
yeah,
we have, Sword of X, a 12-part crossover that takes
yeah,
part in all the books, and they want me to go buy NYX and Sentinels and all. And I think,
Crisis on X.
yeah, Crisis of the X Crisis or whatever. And it's just,
Yeah,
it's one of these things where I just feel like with Marvel right now, I so badly wanted to get back into the X Men. It's been off my lists. I think Hickman left X Men about 3 years ago when largely they pushed Jonathan Hickman out of X Men. I read the last, I think Inferno was his last book that he did. I did that and I was done. And I really, other than Wolverine's solo book, I have not picked up an X Men book for 2.5, 3 years. Which is the first time in my lifetime I've done that. And I was like, okay, maybe we'll get something. They're relaunching the Krakoa thing's ending. It just again, it seems like all the same mistakes over and over again, and it's so interesting. It just reminds me so much of like poorly run sports teams. But I see this with the White Sox all the time. My favorite professional sports team, the White
Raiders.
Sox. Your Raiders do the same thing, different sport, but our franchises kind of do the same thing. I see the White Sox so often repeat the same exact mistakes. They will hire a manager that everybody knows is like, that's an awful choice. What are you doing? And then sometimes they'll literally go to the same team that they hired the coach from previously and hire the guy who was in that role. And it's like, what are you guys doing? And that just seems to be the thing with X-Men is you guys ended the Krakoa era because it wasn't working, right? If
Yeah,
the Krakoa era of X-Men was working, guess what? It'd still be going. Like
yeah.
if those were still selling well, you never would have ended that. You ended it because you had too many books, way too little engagement from fans. You get a fresh starting point, and basically it's, hey man, let's inundate you right off the bat with
You,
12 books.
you just got to wonder, and I'd love to hear from the X-Men fans. Like, are they excited about this? I hope they are. And you got to wonder, like, are there really that many X-Men fans there that will, pick up everything X-Men? I know a few. I know at least one personally that whatever if X-Men's involved in any way, they're picking up, a copy every month. So I'm sure there's a lot of X-Men fans out there. And like I said, I love the X-Men. I've been looking for a jumping on point with the X-Men for at least 5 years or 6 years.
Yeah.
And I haven't had it just yet, but I always will keep my mind open because I love the X-Men. And I'm ready to jump in. And if any of you fans out there know one or two books, or maybe read when you read them, you'll let me know if it's a good jumping on point for an old X-Men fan like me to jump back in.
Yeah. No, I think that's the thing is I pretty much know the only ones I'm going to pick up are probably going to be Uncanny X-Men and Wolverine. I might, because I think Jed McKay's a good writer, give X-Men a shot. But the craziest thing for me that stinks with this is, I love the character of Storm. I really do think Storm's a great character. I like so many of these characters. My childhood attachment to Marvel was largely Spider-Man and the X-Men. And it just stinks that you have so many good characters who are in books that are going to be kind of failing, that you kind of know it's just not going to. And I think the other thing is you can just tell the other books are hurt by it. Uncanny X-Men, no matter how good it is, will be hurt by the fact that it doesn't have Kitty Pryde or Emma Frost in it. The X-Men book that's like if they had just done two team books, right? If you just moved Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde and Storm and Jean and you distributed them into Uncanny X-Men and X-Men, those books are
Yes.
so much stronger.
That was the whole thing, though. The magic of the X-Men is the team.
Yeah,
And you had those core team
those
members
core relationships.
and that was the magic of the X-Men. I understand there's a whole universe out there to explore, but as long as the basic team's intact, you can traverse those others in backup stories and develop characters slowly, like you said. Like, who
Yep.
knows? Maybe one of these third or fourth tier mutants catches on, like Deadpool, and there you go.
Yeah.
But until then, keep the team intact, and your book will be strong. Is how I feel about it.
Well, and
But
they have these books like NYX and Exceptional X-Men where the whole goal is let's find new mutant characters and new characters to add. And it's got guys, you don't need new characters right now. You have an overabundance of characters who are not being developed. How about we
yeah,
develop them first, and then we can develop some newer characters? It's just really interesting to see. Again, I will probably end up picking up, just the Wolverine side of things as much as I would love to see the other ones. But I
I
don't know.
might borrow it from you if you let me,
Oh,
and give it a
you
try.
can always buy. There will
I'll
only
take it for a spin.
any book that throws Wolverine on the cover or Batman will always pretty much make it into my box.
Good, I
So
got your money. Yep.
those will probably be there. They kind of blackmail me with my fandom of those two characters.
Yeah,
But let us know what you guys think below. Are we wrong on this? Are you excited about this relaunch? I do think there looks like there's some pretty good creative folks involved, but again, it just seems, like a mistake to launch 12 books all over a couple months,
that's a big
having
launch.
almost what a $50-$60 monthly commitment just to read the X-Men universe. And maybe they're doing this because they think, hey, not everyone's going to read every book. I just think that approach is a mistake. I think when you look at stuff that's working right now, like the Ultimate Universe, where the sales are really good, I think a huge asset of that is it is relatively small. Right,
Yeah.
it's 4 books. You're picking up one a week, pretty much, and you can kind of maintain it. Just seems like an interesting decision over. As always, folks, we appreciate everybody who watches. Let us know what you think in the comments down below, and we will catch you in our next video, folks.
Thanks, everybody.